Good morning. My name's Rich. Because of some continuing health care issues, the Formation Committee decided it was a good idea to record my witness statement. So even though I may not be with you there today, I am with you there in spirit for the entire weekend. As you heard, I'm going to just speak briefly about renewal. We all know what renewal means. It means restoration of something that's worn out. I was born in Philadelphia, the third son to brothers Harry and Tom. So I was completing the trio of Tom, Dick, and Harry. We were raised in the Presbyterian Church. Every Sunday, dressed in our best, off to Sunday school. Then after Sunday school, upstairs to the main sanctuary for church again with Mom and Dad. When we became teenagers, Sunday night was Christian Endeavor. So we went to all those meetings on Sunday. At 21, I married my sweetheart from my teenage years in my church. And I began a family and a successful career in sales. As life progressed, I drifted and I began to have questions about what I had been taught in the Presbyterian Church, which I felt was populated with a stiff-necked congregation. All the while, my questions of faith were not answered, and I began to drift away from my faith, and unfortunately, my marriage. So divorce came next. Thankfully, eventually, I met a woman like no other in my life. Second generation Italian from Brooklyn and Catholic. Man, you talk about culture shock for a wasp from Philadelphia. Oh my gosh. Well, that I didn't realize it back then, but that was a whole new beginning for me. It was an opportunity to restart and repair in so many ways. How many times do you have the opportunity to restart? How do you feel about that? Eventually, she agreed to become my wife after getting all the necessary approvals from the entire family. Old Country Italians are a very tight family unit. Well, I began attending church with her 42 years ago, and I realized how confused I really was. Then, 7 years ago next month, she had a massive cerebral hemorrhage, a stroke at the age of 60. It was from a birth defect in her brain, which created an aneurysm that burst. The doctor said she probably wouldn't live through the night. And even if she did, she'd probably be blind and vegetative. But she pissed them all off. She lived through the night. I can say that, right? She lived through the night, but she bled down her brainstem, which created even more problems for us. I sat on the floor in the ICU, in her room and in the hall, and I cried. I sobbed, I cried forever. The doctor wanted me to let her go. I prayed, and I prayed. I said, God, how could you do this to my wife? How did you do this to such a good person? She was always there, always has been there, for her family, for friends. Anybody that needed help. I never knew who was living with us. That's the type of person she was. Well, I got extremely bitter with everybody. I was bitter. I was upset. How could this happen? God, how could you let this happen? And I damned God. I prayed and prayed. But I realized that I wasn't the one that was really worthy of God's blessing. Joey was. Well, so many things began to happen. I knew that weren't just coincidence. My son Chris was coming in from California, Thanksgiving Eve, and he was going to help me. And as my wife went into her third hospital, he was going to help me with support and caring for her. I was in the parking lot, waiting for Chris, and I saw a screen where they had all the schedules for the flights coming in, and there was a man standing there. So I got out of the car, went over, talked to him, a little bit older guy, actually. Back then he was older than me. But I started talking to him, and I said, "Oh, you have family coming in for Thanksgiving?" He said, "No, I just retired." He said, "I have friends coming in, and we're going on vacation." I said, "Oh, that's great for you." And then he asked, "How about you?" I told him about my son coming in to help me with my wife as she entered her third hospital. And he asked me what had happened. And I told him exactly what had happened. And then he said, "Well, I hope you don't mind. I just retired as the executive director from the hospital, the third hospital that my wife had just entered. And I wasn't sure that I did the right thing, not letting my wife go." And he reassured me over and over that I had done the right thing. This is hard to bring back. Then I went to my car and I just sat in the car and I cried. And then I realized God put him there for me because I needed somebody to boost me and to help me. It wasn't just a coincidence. Well, Chris needed a haircut, even though he's a surfer dude from California. So I had to take him to a salon that he picked out, and right next to the salon was a Starbucks. Well, while he was in getting a haircut, I figured, let me go in and get one of those fancy Starbucks with the whipped cream on top. So I got one, went outside to sit down. Well, all the tables were occupied. There was one chair at one table with a young man, nicely dressed in a sports shirt. And I asked him, "Would you mind if I sit with you?" And he said, "No problem." I said to him, "I think you got to mortgage your house to get a coffee here." But I said, "Are you on a break from work?" He said, "Well, I am on a break, kind of a break." He said, "I'm a seminary student at St. Thomas More, church that my wife had gone to and I had gone to together." And I said, "You're kidding." I said, "Man, this is crazy." He said, "Why?" Well, I started telling the events that had happened over the last few months with my wife. He reassured me. He asked me for my wife's name. He said, "We're going back for afternoon prayers." And he said, I want to include your wife in our afternoon prayers." Well, you don't make that kind of stuff up. That's not coincidence. There's two incidents that happened within a very short period of time. I spent the next 3 years together with my wife every day at the nursing facility in Delray Beach, Florida. I'd get there at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave at 7 o'clock at night. Finally, my brother-in-law, who's a cardiologist right here in Lakeway at the hospital, he suggested that we move my wife to a facility out here in Austin. So November 13th, 2014, somehow I was able to transport my wife out here with help because she was maximum cyst. So we were able to get out here. Now, she's in a nursing facility right up the street here, a block up the street at Brookdale. Well, here we go again. Well, a fresh start. And we both needed the fresh start. We needed a break, and we needed something to start all over again. Every day, you have a chance to renew, a chance to restart. How ready, how open are you to renew and restart? Matthew 10:46-52. Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city. Bartimaeus, a blind man, the son of Timaeus, sat by the roadside begging. On hearing that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me." Many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he kept calling out all the more, "Son of David, have pity on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, saying to him, "Take up your courage. He is calling you." Well, Bartimaeus threw aside his clothes, sprang up, and came to Jesus. And Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man replied, "Master, I want to see." Jesus told him, "Go your way. Your faith has saved you." Immediately, he received his sight and followed him on the way and the path. Well, now we're in Austin at the nursing home. Church services are given every Sunday by Deacon Gilbert, Greg Holloway, or Morris Stark. Well, I was immediately drawn to these three men, and I began to talk with them about my still unanswered questions about my faith. I had a difficult time understanding much of what I had read in the Bible, even after reading it again. Well, were they the Holy Trinity or just the Three Stooges? I don't know. But now, okay, it's my turn to have a stroke. As I'm pulling in, to see my wife, I have a stroke in my van, which I had just purchased. It's a handicap van, and ran into the back of a pickup truck. Okay. Right into the hospital immediately. I just felt like I had walked into a heavy fog. And I couldn't find my way out. I couldn't tear my way out. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't fight to get out of that fog. Now, I'm in the same nursing facility with my wife. I spent most of the next 3 months in her room because I felt safe being very close to her. Because we realized that she had been blessed and saved so many times, and I felt good there. So finally, one Sunday morning, I was talking with Morris, trying to learn more about my faith. It was obvious to all three of these guys that I was trying to fill this empty space. Then Morris invited me to Men of Emmaus Bible studies, Bible meetings, Friday mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning. Oh, whoa. 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm retired. I don't want to get up that early. Well, after a week or so, I said, let's go. Let's take a shot and see how it goes. Well, when I walked into the meeting, I was welcomed by probably easily 25 guys. And Deacon Terry waved to me, and he had a chair next to him. He said, "Come here, sit over here with me." Well, I sat down next to Deacon Terry. Now I'm safe again. So I'm okay. So while in the meeting, the first Bible study, I hear these guys talking about chirp something. Chirp this, chirp that. It was a lifesaver. It was a life changer. So after the Bible study, I asked Deacon, "Is this like a group that studies birds, or what's it all about?" Well, he told me about it. So he told me about what chirp was. Well, chirp is now Welcome Weekend. I was invited by all three men, all three of my friends, to attend the Welcome Weekend. Well, I'm saying, I'm not real sure, but all right. So I signed up. I get there Saturday morning, early in the morning. First person I see is Greg Holloway, one of my mentors, in the parking lot, and Morris. And I said to the two of them, I don't know why I'm here. I don't think I'm worthy of receiving the Spirit. I haven't been a good guy all my life. I'm not even Catholic. But I'm here. They said, "Well, who do you think got you here?" I said, "Well, I felt that there was something that I needed. I needed something a little more." Well, man, I went with it and said, "All right, let's see what happens." We went to the first witness, and what's he talking about? Renewal. So now I'm sitting there. My arms folded, my shoulders are up. He gets up and he starts talking, and I'm sitting in the back. And I hear him talking. And he's looking right at me, and he said, "All my life, I felt that I wasn't worthy to receive the Spirit." Now he's looking. And I'm sitting there. Look, I got goosebumps. Can you see him? I was sitting there. My God, my shoulders went down. My heart opened up. He said the exact same thing I said in the parking lot. He never thought he was worthy, and he looked at me and said that he was. I cried. The words burned into my heart. I was lifted by the Spirit, something I never thought could happen. It's amazing how often I need renewal. And I have to remind myself that it's not a one-time thing. Open your hearts to the Welcome Weekend. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I've learned this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. On your own intelligence, don't rely. It will always be always mindful of Him, and He will make your path straight. And finally, Romans 8:28. This has been my verse since a teenager. And we know that all things work together for good to those that love God, to whom are the called according to His purpose. God bless you. I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready to open your hearts to the Welcome Weekend. And now, you'll hear a song called Down Every Road, and it was written, and the guitar player is my son-in-law. God bless you all. I'll be with you the entire weekend. Signing off.